The twin suns were falling behind the red trees of Virel 9, painting the sky with fire and gold. A soft wind moved through the tall grass, carrying strange sounds, low hums, distant growls, and whispers from the glowing forest. Dr. Ilara Wynn, a human explorer, walked slowly through the alien jungle. Her boots were heavy with dust. Her oxygen pack blinked with a weak blue light, almost empty. She had been alone for 3 days, searching for signs of intelligent life. Her ship's signal beacon had broken during a storm, and her small camp had been destroyed. Now she had nothing but her scanner, a half-charged energy pistol, and a tired heart that wanted only rest. She stumbled through vines that shimmered like glass. Every sound around her made her turn her head. She was sure something was following her, but every time she looked back, she saw only shadows. Her scanner beeped faintly. "Life form detected," it whispered in a metallic voice. She frowned. Life was everywhere here. Plants that moved, insects that glowed. But this signal felt different. It was warm, close, and watching. Ilara shook her head. "Probably another error," she murmured. Her voice echoed too loudly in the quiet air. Night came fast on Virel 9. The forest lights turned from gold to blue, glowing softly under the stars. Ilara found a large tree with a smooth trunk that shone like metal. Its roots made a small hollow, enough for her to crawl in and rest. "I'll just close my eyes for a minute," she whispered. She laid her pack beside her and placed the scanner on her chest. Her eyelids felt heavy. She had been awake for more than 20 hours. The sounds of the jungle became distant, like waves in her mind. She drifted into sleep. For a while, all was still. Then from the thick grass nearby, 4 small shapes appeared, moving low and silent. They were predator cubs, creatures of the Virelian wild. Their fur was short and silver, their eyes bright amber. Tiny tusks curved from their mouths, and thin tails flicked in curiosity. The largest cub sniffed the air, its ears twitching. The scent was strange, not of prey, not of danger, but something soft and unfamiliar. The second cub gave a chirp, almost like laughter. They crept closer to the sleeping human. Ilara's breathing was slow and peaceful. The cubs circled her, sniffing her boots, her gloves, her tangled hair. One of them pressed its nose to her cheek, then pulled back quickly, surprised by her warmth. They had never seen a creature like her before. The smallest cub, barely the size of a cat, placed its paw on her hand. The human didn't move. The cub purred softly, and then did something bold. It climbed onto her chest, curling up on the glowing scanner. The soft hum of the machine seemed to calm it. The other cubs followed. Soon, 3 of them were resting against her legs, their tails wrapping over her knees. One cub began to snore in a high, squeaky sound. Above them, hidden among the trees, a much larger shadow stirred. Golden eyes opened in the dark. The air grew colder. The ground trembled slightly as the mother stepped forward. She was enormous, taller than a human, her muscles shifting under smooth black scales. Long fangs glinted in the starlight. Every creature in the jungle would flee from her, but not the cubs. They belonged to her. The predator queen tilted her head, watching her young surround the sleeping stranger. Her throat rumbled with a low, dangerous growl. But the cubs did not move away. They chirped and purred, completely unafraid. The mother leaned closer. Her nose was inches from the human's face. She inhaled deeply. Something in that scent stopped her. It was not the smell of prey. It was clean, strange, like wind after rain. The human made a small sound in her sleep, turning her head. The mother's muscles tensed instantly. For a second, she considered crushing the small intruder who dared enter her hunting ground. But then the smallest cub gave a short cry, a call of comfort. The mother froze again. The cub nuzzled closer to the human's chest as if to say, "She's safe." The great predator's golden eyes softened only a little. She lowered her body to the ground, still watching carefully. Her huge tail curled around the cubs protectively, including the strange pale creature among them. For the first time in her life, Ilara Wynn was sleeping under the guard of one of the deadliest beasts on Virel 9. Hours passed. The jungle sang its deep, endless song. Small creatures crept, flowers opened and closed, and the 2 moons crossed the sky. Ilara dreamed. She saw her ship, her team, her home on Earth. She heard voices calling her name. Then she heard a low rumble, like thunder far away, and something warm pressing against her arm. When she finally stirred, Her eyes opened halfway. She saw silver fur. She felt warmth all around her. Her sleepy mind thought for a moment that she was inside her tent again, covered in blankets. Then the blanket moved. Ilara blinked, fully awake, and froze. 4 alien cubs were piled on top of her. One was lying across her chest. Another was snoring against her knee. Their eyes opened at her sudden motion, glowing softly in the dim light. For 3 long seconds, no one moved. Then the smallest cub gave a soft chirp and pressed its nose against her chin. Ilara gasped quietly. "Oh no. Oh no, no, no," she whispered. Her hands trembled. She didn't want to scare them, but she didn't know what else might be near. Her heart pounded in her chest. Slowly, she turned her head and froze again. A few meters away, half hidden by mist, stood the mother. Massive. Silent. Watching. Golden eyes locked with human eyes. Ilara didn't move a muscle. The cubs, unaware of the tension, continued to purr and crawl around her. One of them playfully tugged at her hair. Okay, she whispered softly, trying to keep calm. "I'm not food. Please tell me I'm not food." The mother's nostrils flared. A deep rumble rolled from her chest. Ilara swallowed hard, slowly lowering her eyes, showing no threat. Her breathing slowed. Her instincts told her to run, but her mind whispered, "Don't move." Minutes passed. The air between them was thick, filled with silent understanding. The cubs made small chirping sounds again. The mother tilted her head. Finally, she stepped back slightly, still watching, and the forest behind her seemed to breathe again. Ilara exhaled shakily. Her whole body trembled. She looked down at the smallest cub now resting in her lap. Despite the danger, a small, nervous smile appeared on her lips. "Guess you found me first," she whispered. The cub blinked slowly, its amber eyes shining like tiny suns. Somewhere deep inside the jungle, another roar echoed, a warning or perhaps a challenge. Ilara turned her head toward the sound. The cubs looked too, their fur rising. The mother growled low, protective. She stepped forward again, standing between Ilara and the darkness beyond the trees. The human understood enough to feel it. Something else was coming. And for reasons she couldn't explain, the great predator had chosen to guard her. The night on Virel 9 was only beginning. The morning light on Virel 9 came slowly, filtered through thick blue leaves and mist that glowed like smoke. Dr. Ilara Wynne sat still beneath the shining tree, hardly breathing. Around her, the 4 predator cubs yawned and stretched, making tiny squeaks that sounded almost like laughter. She had spent half the night awake, too afraid to move, with the massive mother creature watching her from the shadows. Now in daylight, the beast looked even larger, its dark scales reflecting blue light, its eyes golden and calm but alert. Every movement it made seemed heavy with power. Ilara whispered softly to a recorder. Day 3. First confirmed close contact with native fauna. They appear intelligent and I appear to still be alive. Her voice shook a little, but she managed a nervous smile. One cub climbed into her lap again, curious about the blinking light on her recorder. It pawed at the device and made a short chirp. Ilara laughed quietly. "Hey, easy there, little one." "That's not food." The mother gave a low rumble. Ilara froze for a moment. Then she noticed the sound wasn't a threat. It was more like a warning growl to the cub, not to her. She blinked in surprise. "Is she protecting me too?" The cubs began to wander around, chasing glowing insects that drifted in the air. Ilara took the chance to observe the mother more carefully. The beast's body bore deep scars, some old, some fresh. One side of her shoulder looked bruised, maybe from fighting. These creatures were predators, yes, but clearly not mindless killers. Ilara reached slowly for her scanner and pointed it toward the mother. The small device beeped twice. "High brainwave activity," she whispered. "Close to human level. Maybe higher." Her voice trembled with awe. Then suddenly the forest went quiet. Every insect light vanished. Every bird-like sound stopped. Even the cubs froze, ears up and tails stiff. Ilara felt the silence press against her like a weight. The mother beast turned her head sharply, her golden eyes scanning the trees. A deep rolling growl rose from her throat. Ilara's heart began to pound. "What's wrong?" she whispered, as if the creature could answer. Then she heard it, a metallic hum far away, echoing through the jungle. It was faint but growing louder, mechanical and steady. Her stomach dropped. She knew that sound. Drones, she breathed. Those are human drones. Back at her base, automated harvester drones had been programmed to sweep the jungle for biological samples. They were not meant to harm, but they attacked anything that moved when in defensive mode. If they found the cubs, they would consider them a threat. The mother beast stepped forward, her claws digging into the dirt. She stood over the cubs, growling louder. The little ones whimpered, pressing close to her legs. Ilara's instincts screamed at her to hide. But another feeling, strange and new, kept her still. She looked at the cubs, at their frightened eyes, and then at the mother trying to shield them. "No," she whispered. "They'll shoot you. They'll shoot all of you." She jumped to her feet, waving her hands toward the sky. "Stop! Shutdown sequence Alpha Code Win 7!" She shouted, no response. The drones were too far to hear her command directly. Their faint red lights flickered through the mist, moving between the trees. The mother beast turned her gaze toward Ilara, confused and wary. Ilara took a step back and pointed to the lights. "Machines," she said, hoping the creature could understand her tone. "Danger, bad." The mother tilted her head, watching her gestures. Then she made a low sound that almost seemed like an answer. Ilara's scanner beeped again. The drones had locked onto movement. "Damn it," she muttered. She pressed her communicator and tried to send a new override code, but the static was too heavy. The jungle canopy blocked everything. The hum grew louder. Now she could see them clearly. 3 silver spheres moving through the trees, each glowing with scanning lights and armed with energy bolts. The cubs hid behind their mother, trembling. Ilara felt a surge of panic and anger. She ran in front of them, raising her hands. "Don't fire. I'm human. Stand down." The drones paused for half a second, their scanners flashing over her form. Then one of them beeped. Unauthorized presence detected, a red beam charged. Before Ilara could move, the mother roared, a sound so deep it shook the ground. She leaped forward, slamming into the nearest drone with incredible force. Metal shattered, sparks burst through the trees. The other 2 drones spun toward her, firing bolts of blue energy. One hit her side. She staggered but didn't fall. Her claws tore through another drone, splitting it in half. Ilara ran to the cubs who were huddled behind a fallen branch. She crouched low and shouted into her comm, "Override Protocol Gamma! Cease fire." The last drone turned toward her, charging again. Ilara threw a rock, small, useless. But it caught the drone's attention for 1 critical second. The mother pounced, smashing it to the ground and crushing it under her weight. Then silence. Only the sound of heavy breathing remained. Ilara looked around at the wreckage. 3 broken drones, sparks still crackling. The mother beast stood in the center, her chest heaving, blood trickling down her flank. The cubs ran to her, crying softly, pressing their heads against her legs. Ilara felt tears sting her eyes. She stood slowly, hands raised to show she meant no harm. "It's okay," she whispered. "It's over now." The mother turned her head toward her, her golden eyes narrowing in pain and confusion. Ilara took a careful step closer. "You saved me." She pointed at herself, then at the broken drones. "Saved," the great creature blinked slowly. Then she made a deep, low sound. Not a growl this time, but something gentler. Ilara understood somehow. She walked closer, her hand trembling, and reached out. The cubs watched in silence. The mother didn't move. Ilara touched the edge of her scales, warm, rough, alive. For a moment, human and predator stood together in the quiet jungle, surrounded by smoke and the scent of metal. The morning wind moved through the trees again, carrying away the smell of war. The cubs climbed onto Ilara's legs, as if claiming her as part of their pack, and high above, in the mist, unseen watchers, strange bird-like creatures, took flight, their eyes glowing red as they vanished into the sky. Someone, or something, was watching this meeting from afar. Ilara looked up, her heart uneasy. She didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning. In the heart of the alien wild, both humanity and the predators had just drawn the attention of something far more dangerous. The air on Virel 9 was heavy with smoke and the metallic smell of burned machines. Sparks still danced around the broken drones, small blue flames flickering and fading into the dirt. Dr. Ilara Wynn sat quietly beside the injured mother predator, afraid to move too quickly. The great creature's breathing was rough and deep. The wound on her side glowed faintly where the energy bolt had burned through her scales. The cubs pressed close to her, making soft, worried noises. Alara looked down at her trembling hands. They were blackened with soot, shaking from fear and adrenaline. She had never been this close to death before, not even during her earlier missions on Earth. And yet she was alive, alive, because the creature beside her, one of the most dangerous predators on the planet, had saved her. She looked at the cubs again. One of them, the smallest, crept toward her and sniffed her hand. Alara didn't move. The cub's tiny tongue flicked out, touching her fingers. Its eyes glowed softly, full of curiosity instead of fear. A shaky smile formed on her face. "Hey there, little one," she whispered. "You're not supposed to be this friendly," the cub chirped in response, its tail twitching. Alara laughed quietly, though her eyes were still full of tears. She reached slowly for her medkit, trying not to alarm the mother. When the case clicked open, the mother's golden eyes flashed, but she didn't growl. She just watched carefully. Alara showed the injector in her hand. "Medicine," she said softly. "Help, not hurt." The mother tilted her head. Her eyes shifted between Alara and the cubs. Finally, with a deep rumble that sounded like permission, she lowered her body again, exposing the wound slightly. Alara's heart raced. "You understand me," she whispered in awe. She knelt beside the wound and sprayed the healing foam. It hissed gently as it covered the burn. The smell of herbs and chemicals filled the air. The mother flinched once but didn't attack. The cubs watched in silence, eyes wide. When Alara was done, she backed away slowly and sat down again. The mother turned her head and looked at her for a long moment. Not as prey, but as something else. Something equal. For the first time since the crash, the jungle felt peaceful. Sunlight filtered through the high leaves, turning the mist into gold and green. Strange birds called in the distance. Alara leaned against the glowing tree, exhausted. Her voice was soft when she spoke to her recorder. Entry 4. The local predators show a surprising level of social intelligence. One even allowed me to treat her wound. They're not just animals. They think, they protect, they trust. Her voice broke a little on that last word. She didn't know if the feeling was joy, fear, or both. The smallest cub, now bold and playful again, climbed up her leg and curled in her lap. Alara smiled, running a gentle hand over its soft silver fur. "You really don't know what personal space means, do you?" she said with a tired laugh. The cub purred loudly in response. The mother beast made a sound, low, soft, almost musical. It wasn't a growl. It was closer to a hum deep in her chest. The cubs joined in, creating a rhythm that vibrated through the air. Alara listened carefully, her heart beating faster. Was it communication? Was this how they spoke to each other? She closed her eyes and tried to mimic the sound. A low hum, quiet and unsure. The cub in her lap stopped purring for a second, then hummed back. Another joined in. Even the mother tilted her head, the golden eyes softening. Alara smiled through tears. It was small, simple, but for that brief moment human and alien sang together. The peace didn't last long. A faint crackle came from her communicator. At first Alara thought it was just background noise, but then a voice broke through the static. "Lara Wynn, do you copy? This is Commander Hale. Your signal's back online. Are you alive?" Her heart jumped. She grabbed the device. "Hale, I'm here." "I'm fine. I found something incredible." The voice cut in sharply. "Stay where you are, Doctor. We've detected destroyed drones in your sector. Sending a recovery team." Her smile faded. A recovery team meant soldiers. Soldiers who would see the predators as monsters, not as living, thinking beings. She looked at the mother beast, who was now watching her closely. The creature's instincts seemed to sense the tension in her voice. "No," Alara whispered into the comm. "You don't understand. They're not hostile. I repeat, do not engage. A static again." The signal was gone. She cursed softly under her breath. The mother gave a low growl, sensing her fear. Alara shook her head. "It's not you. It's my people." The cubs looked up at her, confused by her tone. One pawed gently at her hand as if to comfort her. Hours passed. Alara stayed near the family, keeping her distance but always in sight. The mother rested, the cubs played, and the jungle seemed calm again. But the tension in her chest wouldn't fade. She knew humans would come soon. And when they saw these creatures, large, fanged, powerful, they would shoot first and study later. She watched the cubs chasing glowing insects and whispered, "Maybe we're the dangerous ones." "Not you!" As the second sun began to sink, the light changed again. The forest turned crimson, shadows long and deep. Ilara looked up at the sky. There, in the far distance, she saw small lights moving. "Ships. They're early," she said quietly. The mother beast stood up suddenly, her body stiff. She looked toward the same direction and hissed softly. She could feel the vibration of the engines even before they were visible. Ilara's pulse quickened. She looked at the cubs. "Go hide," she whispered, pointing toward the thick trees. The cubs tilted their heads, not understanding. She waved her hands. "Hide! Danger!" Her tone must have been enough. The cubs ran to the roots of a large tree, whining nervously. The mother, however, didn't move. She stood tall, between Ilara and the approaching noise, her tail sweeping across the ground. Ilara wanted to run, but couldn't. She couldn't leave them. Above, engines roared closer. Dust rose around her as a human dropship broke through the tree line, lights flashing. Ilara shielded her eyes. She knew her team would find her soon. And when they did, she would have to make a choice. Would she save herself, or the creatures who had already saved her? The ship's lights grew brighter. The mother growled low, ready to defend. Ilara whispered to herself, voice shaking, "Please, don't let them shoot." The engines screamed as the ship descended through the trees. The jungle held its breath once more. Ilara looked up at the sky. There, in the far distance, she saw small lights moving. "Ships. They're early," she said quietly. The mother beast stood up suddenly, her body stiff. She looked toward the same direction and hissed softly. She could feel the vibration of the engines even before they were visible. Ilara's pulse quickened. She looked at the cubs. "Go hide," she whispered, pointing toward the thick trees. The cubs tilted their heads, not understanding. She waved her hands. "Hide! Danger!" Her tone must have been enough. The cubs ran to the roots of a large tree, whining nervously. The mother, however, didn't move. She stood tall, between Ilara and the approaching noise, her tail sweeping across the ground. Ilara wanted to run, but couldn't. She couldn't leave them. Above, engines roared closer. Dust rose around her as a human dropship broke through the tree line, lights flashing. Ilara shielded her eyes. She knew her team would find her soon. And when they did, she would have to make a choice. Would she save herself, or the creatures who had already saved her? The ship's lights grew brighter. The mother growled low, ready to defend. Ilara whispered to herself, voice shaking, "Please, don't let them shoot." The engines screamed as the ship descended through the trees. The jungle held its breath once more. Smoke filled the air. The ground shook with each strike of metal against scale. The jungle that once whispered with wind now screamed with fire and fury. Dr. Ilara Wynn stumbled behind a fallen tree, covering her head as sparks flew over her. The harvesters, giant mechanical walkers, tore through the clearing, cutting down trees like paper. The mother beast fought like a storm. Her tail smashed one machine into the ground, her claws ripping through steel as if it were bark. But for every machine she destroyed, two more marched from the shadows. "Commander Hale," Ilara shouted over the roar. "There are too many." Hale ducked behind a boulder, firing his rifle at the machine's joints. "We can't fall back, they'll follow us to the dropship." Ilara peeked from cover and saw the cubs, tiny, shaking under the roots of an old tree. Their eyes glowed in fear as the air burned with plasma light. Her heart clenched. "I have to move them." Hale grabbed her arm. "You'll get yourself killed." But Ilara shook free. "They saved me once. Now it's my turn." She ran through the smoke, stumbling over roots and broken branches. The air was hot, thick with ash. She slid down beside the cubs, wrapping her arms around them. "It's okay. It's okay," she whispered, though her voice trembled. The mother beast saw her, and for a brief moment their eyes met through the chaos. The message was clear. "Protect them." Ilara nodded, pulling the cubs behind the fallen trunk. The mother turned back toward the machines. Her muscles coiled like steel cables. Then, with a roar that split the air, she charged again. One harvester swung its saw arm down at her. She caught it mid-strike, claws digging deep into metal, and snapped it off with pure force. Sparks exploded. Another harvester fired plasma shots that burned across her shoulder. She roared in pain but didn't fall. Instead, she leapt straight onto the machine's back and tore open its power core. The explosion lit the night like lightning. Ilara ducked with the cubs as the shockwave rolled past. "By the stars," Hale muttered, watching the scene through the smoke. "That thing's fighting for her children. And us." The soldiers regrouped.
"Cover her!"
Hale ordered. "Aim for the sensors, blind them." Blue bolts filled the air. The harvesters stumbled, confused. The mother took her chance, smashing one down and biting through its core. The cubs whimpered, frightened by the noise. Ilara held them close. "It's all right," she said softly. "Your mother's winning." But deep down, she wasn't sure. The mother's side was bleeding, thick, dark blood dripping onto the ground. She was slowing down. One last harvester approached, the largest of them all, twice the size of the others. Its heavy steps shook the jungle floor. A red light burned in its center like an angry eye. The soldiers' weapons overheated. Hale cursed. "We're out of charge." Ilara looked around desperately. She saw the wreckage of a destroyed harvester, smoke rising, its core still glowing blue. She ran to it. "Ilara!" Hale shouted, but she didn't stop. She reached the core and yanked at the control cables, sparks stinging her hands. Her fingers bled, but she didn't care. She pulled a power conduit, heavy and glowing with energy. Her mind raced. If she could overload the large harvester, it might shut down or explode. Either way, it would stop. She sprinted toward the machine, ducking between bursts of plasma fire. The mother beast saw her and gave a sharp call, a warning, almost pleading. "I know," Ilara yelled back. "But I have to do this." The harvester aimed at her, sensors locking on. Its plasma cannon charged. Ilara dove behind a rock, clutching the conduit. Come on," she whispered, searching for the right port. The mother roared and attacked again, buying her time. The machine swung its massive arm, knocking the creature backward. She hit the ground hard, trees snapping under her weight. "Ilara!" Hale shouted. The human scientist didn't stop. She leapt forward, jammed the conduit into the harvester's open panel, and hit the power switch. For one breathless second, nothing happened. Then light exploded. A wave of blue energy burst from the machine, lighting up the jungle like day. The harvester froze mid-step, and then shattered, its body breaking apart into flaming metal. The shockwave knocked Ilara off her feet. She hit the ground hard, gasping for air. When the smoke cleared, the massive machine lay broken, its eye dark. The jungle fell silent again. Ilara opened her eyes and saw the mother beast limping toward her. Her side bled heavily, but her gaze was calm, almost gentle. The cubs ran to her, chirping softly. The mother bent down, touching her snout to Ilara's shoulder. Hale watched from a distance, speechless. "She's thanking you," Ilara smiled weakly. "Or saying goodbye." The mother gave a low rumble, curling around her cubs protectively. The light in her golden eyes dimmed for a moment, then brightened again. She wasn't finished. The sound of engines returned. More ships were coming. The dropship's sensors beeped. Hale looked at the sky. Reinforcements. "Command sent backup." Ilara stood, her body aching. "If they see her like this, they'll kill her." "We have to hide them," Hale frowned.
"Hide? You want me to lie to command?"
"Yes," she said fiercely. "You saw it, Hale. She's not a monster. She's a mother protecting her children, like any human would." The commander looked at the wreckage, at the fallen machines, at the wounded creature watching them silently. Finally, he lowered his rifle. "You've got 5 minutes before they land." Ilara nodded gratefully and ran to the mother. She gestured toward the deep ravine beyond the clearing, a shadowy place covered in vines. The beast seemed to understand. She nuzzled her cubs, then limped toward the hidden valley. Ilara followed, helping the smallest cub up the rocks. At the edge, the mother turned back one last time. Her eyes met Ilara's, bright, powerful, full of something more than instinct. Something almost human. Then she disappeared into the mist. The dropships landed moments later. Soldiers poured out, weapons ready. Hale met them with a grim face. "Hostile presence neutralized," he reported. "All harvesters destroyed." The captain looked around the wreckage. "You sure?" Hale nodded. "Completely sure." Ilara stood beside him, silent, covered in soot. She looked at the forest where the mother had gone. The jungle was quiet again, hiding its secret. The captain frowned but moved on, ordering his men to collect the data cores. When they were gone, Hale looked at Alara. "You know, Command will want a full report." Alara smiled faintly. "They'll get one. Just not the whole truth," Hale sighed. "You think that creature will survive?" Alara looked into the mist, where faint golden eyes still glowed for a moment before fading. "She will," she said softly, "because this jungle protects its own now." The dropship lifted off, leaving behind the shattered harvesters and smoke that drifted through the trees like ghosts. Dr. Ilara Wynne sat in silence as the ground fell away beneath them. Her uniform was torn, her face streaked with ash, but her eyes were fixed on the jungle below, where the mother beast and her cubs had vanished into mist. Commander Hale sat across from her, arms folded, helmet resting on his knees. "You should rest," he said quietly. Alara shook her head. "I can't, not yet." The engines hummed. The ship's lights flickered as they rose through the cloud layer. She watched until the last green glimmer of the forest disappeared beneath the clouds. The pilot's voice came through the intercom. "ETA to orbit station, 20 minutes. Ilara leaned back and closed her eyes, but her mind was anything but calm. The image of the mother beast's golden eyes haunted her. There had been no fear in them at the end, only trust. She whispered to herself, "Please be safe." When they reached the orbital base Haven 9, everything felt too clean, too quiet. Metal corridors, white walls, and artificial air. It was a world that had forgotten what real life smelled like. The debriefing started the moment they stepped off the ship. Technicians surrounded them, scanning their armor, downloading the combat feeds. Then came Admiral Kor, head of planetary operations, tall, cold-eyed, a man who trusted numbers more than people. He walked into the room, hands clasped behind his back. "Dr. Wynne, Commander Hale, I trust your mission report explains the unusual readings we've received." Ilara swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. We were attacked by autonomous harvesters. The jungle life forms defended themselves. They displayed signs of intelligence, even strategy." The Admiral's eyebrow twitched. "Intelligence?" "Yes, sir," she said. "They protected their young. They communicated. They even coordinated with me during the fight." The room went quiet. A few officers exchanged doubtful looks. Admiral Kor stepped closer. "Doctor, our sensors show you uploaded an unsanctioned code from your field console before the attack." "Explain that," Ilara froze. Her heart skipped. I only used a signal pulse to track the drones. Nothing more." "Strange," Kor said. "Because the same frequency you transmitted was the one that activated the harvesters." Hale's head snapped up. "Wait, you're saying she triggered the attack?" Ilara's voice shook. "No, that's impossible. Someone must have." The Admiral cut her off. "Enough. You brought chaos to a stable mission zone. Until we investigate, you are confined to quarters." 2 guards stepped forward. Hale stood quickly. "Sir, that's not right. I saw those machines move on their own. She saved my entire team." "Noted, Commander," Kor said coldly. "But this is beyond field judgment." Ilara stared at him, realization dawning in her eyes. "You knew," she whispered. "You knew the harvesters were active." Kor's expression didn't change. "Take her." The metal doors slammed shut behind her. The small cabin was bright and sterile, a cage pretending to be a room. Ilara paced back and forth. Her hands trembled as she replayed everything in her mind. The signal, the timing, the sudden aggression of the machines. Someone on the base had used her field code to command the harvesters. But why? Then it hit her, the survey logs. Before she left for the jungle, she'd noticed restricted files about planetary resource clearance, Phase 2. She rushed to the console in the corner. It was locked, but her field ID still worked. Barely. She opened the encrypted logs. Lines of data filled the screen. "Target sector feed 9. Biomass extraction approved. Clear all life forms classified as apex hostile species. Authorization." Admiral Kor, her stomach turned cold. They weren't there to study the planet. They were there to strip it bare, and the apex hostile species was the mother and her kind, she whispered. He tried to wipe them out. Hours later, the door hissed open. Commander Hale stepped in, glancing over his shoulder before closing it again. He carried a small data drive. "You were right," he said. I checked the comm logs. "The harvesters were rerouted from the orbital controls by Core himself." Ilara stared at him. "Then he framed me." Hale nodded. "He doesn't want the Council to know the machines attacked first. If they find out, it'll kill his entire project." Ilara took the data drive, gripping it tightly. "We need to expose him." Hale looked uneasy. "If we do that, we'll both be marked as traitors. You know how Command deals with whistleblowers." "I don't care," she said. "If they destroy that jungle, it's genocide." He sighed. "Then we'll have to go back down there before they launch Phase 2. Ilara blinked. "You'd go with me?" He smiled faintly. "Someone has to fly the ship." Later that night, alarms blared across the base. A transport ship, their ship, lifted off unauthorized. In the chaos, no one noticed the two figures inside wearing stolen crew uniforms. Ilara sat in the co-pilot's seat, holding the drive close to her chest. "Once we reach orbit drop, we'll hide in the storm belt. They won't track us," Hale grinned. "You're getting good at breaking rules." She managed a small laugh. "Learning from the best." The ship shuddered as it entered the atmosphere, heat flaring across the hull. Outside, the planet of Virel 9 glowed below, green, gold and alive as they descended. Ilara's heart pounded with both fear and hope. "She'll know we're coming," she said softly. "You really think that creature understands all this?" Hale asked. Ilara smiled. "She already trusted me once. I just hope she still does." They landed near the same clearing where the battle had taken place. The wreckage was still there, half buried in vines. The jungle was quiet. Too quiet. Ilara stepped out carefully, scanning the shadows. "Hello?" She called softly, no answer. Just the wind through the trees. She moved closer to the ravine where the mother had disappeared. "It's me," she said. "Ilara." For a moment there was nothing. Then a deep, familiar rumble. Golden eyes opened in the darkness. The mother beast stepped into the light, her body scarred but strong. The cubs peeked out behind her, bigger now, their scales shining faintly in the mist. Ilara felt tears in her eyes. "You're alive." The creature tilted her head, watching her carefully. Then she stepped closer, slow, cautious. Hale raised his weapon slightly but lowered it when Ilara shook her head. The mother leaned forward until her snout was inches from Ilara's hand. The air vibrated with a low, soft growl. Not of anger, but of memory. Ilara smiled. "We came back to help." Behind her, the small hollow device in her hand flickered to life, projecting the data logs, Core's orders, his signature. The plans to destroy the jungle. The mother watched the glowing light, eyes narrowing. Then she looked up toward the sky, where distant thunder echoed from the orbiting ships preparing for Phase 2. She understood. And when she turned back to Ilara, there was no fear, only resolve. Hale glanced at the clouds, where streaks of flame signaled descending drones. "They found us," he said. Ilara nodded, her voice firm. "Then we make them listen." The mother gave a low call that rolled through the forest like a drumbeat. In the distance, other roars answered. Dozens of them. The jungle itself began to wake. Hale's eyes widened. "You called for backup." "So did she," Ilara smiled. "Maybe this time, humanity will finally learn to listen. Before it's too late." Above them, the first of the human dropships broke through the clouds. And below, the ground trembled with the footsteps of the awakening beasts. The war for Virel 9 was about to begin. The sky burned red. Dropships screamed through the clouds, engines roaring like thunder. From below, the jungle of Virel 9 came alive. Trees shaking, ground trembling. Voices of beasts rising together in a single powerful roar. Dr. Ilara Wynne stood at the edge of the ravine, her heart racing. Commander Hale was beside her, scanning the sky with his rifle ready. Above them, human forces were descending. Hundreds of drones, heavy harvesters, and armored troops. "They're not coming to talk," Hale muttered. Ilara's eyes narrowed. "Then we'll make them listen another way." Behind them, the mother beast stepped forward, her wounds healed with time. Her golden eyes glowed brighter than ever. The cubs, now stronger, faster, stood beside her, rumbling low in their throats. A deep sound rolled through the valley. From every direction, other creatures answered. Huge shapes moved between the trees, horned, scaled, winged. The jungle itself seemed to breathe. Ilara whispered, They're ready. Far above, aboard the command ship Helios, Admiral Kor watched the scene through tactical screens. He sneered. Savage animals. End this now. Burn Sector V9 completely. Officers hesitated. But Sir, Dr. Wynn's beacon is active down there. I said burn it. No witnesses. The order was given. On the surface, Alara's wrist console beeped. Her eyes widened as she read the signal. They're going to fire orbital plasma strikes. Hale looked up at the sky, already glowing with streaks of energy. We need cover. The mother beast let out a sharp roar, the same command she had used to gather her kind. The earth itself seemed to answer. Massive roots burst from the ground, twisting upward, forming walls of living wood. The first plasma bolt struck, but the jungle didn't burn. The trees absorbed the heat, glowing with light instead of fire. Ilara gasped. The forest is alive. It's protecting us. The mother turned to her as if confirming her thought. The jungle wasn't just a home. It was part of them, connected by something ancient. The humans landed moments later, troops in metal armor marching through smoke and vines. Their lights cut through the mist. Target all hostiles, the squad leader barked. They never saw what came next. The ground erupted beneath them. Vines shot out like whips, wrapping around metal legs and dragging soldiers into the earth. Predator beasts charged from the trees, roaring in unison. The air filled with chaos, metal clashing against nature, gunfire echoing through roars. Hale fired beside Alara, covering her as she ran toward a fallen transmitter tower. If I can boost this signal, she shouted, I can send the truth to the Council, Kor's orders, everything. Then move fast. Hale yelled, shooting down a drone that swooped too close. The mother beast fought near them, smashing through machines like thunder given shape. Every time she fell, the jungle seemed to lift her back up, vines tightening around her limbs, helping her rise again. The cubs stayed near Alara, protecting her from smaller drones, their scales flashing with light. Alara reached the console, her fingers flying over the keys. The screen flickered. Almost there. High above, Admiral Kor saw the transmission attempt. Jam her signal, he snapped. But before the command went through, a massive energy spike appeared on his sensors, deep within the planet's crust. What is that? An officer gasped. Kor's eyes widened. Impossible. On the surface, the jungle glowed brighter. The roots, the trees, even the soil pulsed with light. Alara looked around in awe. It's reacting to the energy from the strike. It's waking up! The mother beast raised her head and roared. Not in anger, but in unity. The sound echoed across mountains. The light grew until everything shone like dawn. Machines froze. Weapons failed. The orbital fire stopped mid-descent, as if something had gripped the very air. Then came silence. And in that silence, the jungle spoke. A deep voice vibrated in Alara's mind, not words, but feelings, life, protection, balance. She fell to her knees, tears filling her eyes. You're not just creatures. You're part of the planet itself, the mother looked at her. Understanding in those golden eyes, Alara pressed the final key on her console and transmitted the full data logs, Kor's corruption, the truth about the harvesters, everything, straight to the Galactic Council's secure channel. Message sent, she whispered. Above, the command ship received the broadcast. Alarms blared. Kor shouted, "Cut the feed!" But it was too late. The Council's seal appeared on the screen, and his command authority was revoked in an instant. Sir, an officer said quietly, they're recalling all units. We're ordered to stand down. Kor slammed his fist against the console. You fools. You don't understand what's down there. But the truth was out, and humanity was forced to stop. On the planet, the battle ended. The soldiers withdrew, leaving behind smoke and silence. Alara stood beside the mother beast, breathing hard, her heart pounding with disbelief. Hale approached, lowering his rifle. You did it. Alara smiled faintly. No, we did. The mother beast stepped forward, her cubs beside her. She lowered her head, and Alara gently placed her hand against the creature's snout. For a moment, there was peace, human and beast side by side. Under the same sun, the mother gave a low call, and the jungle around them shimmered with light before fading back to green. The power that had risen now went quiet again, resting. Alara looked up at Hale. Do you think they'll come back? He shrugged. Humans always come back, she nodded. Then I'll be here waiting, not to fight, but to teach them how to see. Hale smiled. You're not much of a soldier, Doc. Good, she said softly. Maybe it's time someone stopped acting like one. Weeks later, from the orbiting council station, a broadcast went across human space. Virel 9 is now a protected biosphere. All mining and clearing operations are suspended. Research teams will operate under new peace protocols. Down on the surface, Ilara stood at the edge of the same clearing where it all began, the place she once fell asleep under alien stars. The cubs played nearby, chasing each other through the ferns. The mother beast rested in the shade, watching with calm golden eyes. Ilara smiled. Guess you were right to trust me. The creature's eyes blinked slowly, a gesture Ilara now understood as a smile of her own kind. Above them, the sky was clear. The war was over, and for the first time, both humanity and the wild world of Virel 9 breathed the same quiet air, not as enemies, but as guardians.